Oof. Hey everyone. Sorry I'm late. Normally I'm a few minutes early, talking smack on everyone else who shows up 2 minutes late. So apologies. Let me get my folder for the day.
It's okay. We were talking smack on you while you were gone.
Bet you were. You're like, geez, what time is it? Mayor's watch work? What's going on? What do we got here? What was it, say Friday? Cool. Lots happened since I think last time we met. Are there heart keys on?
Yes, we are. At least I am. Adam's on a phone call with the lobbyist right now, but
Everything's doing better, right? Like I think things are doing better for you guys, like for the industry.
for some of us, we are in a really good position to know that we're going to be able to make it through.
Yeah, to actually survive.
Lose our businesses. Yeah, we're really tired right now. We're just able to let go finally. But yeah, here's hoping the rest of us can get some relief in the coming weeks as well.
Good. Well, hopefully we're on the end of this, right? And we can have more success stories where legislation actually is helping folks in our community like it is you guys. So very happy. I saw when the bill passed, Adam posting quite a bit online. He seemed, and then I thought, I didn't look into it too much. I just knew it was good, like following, I think, the industry and some of the stuff you guys have been fighting for. So glad to hear it.
The bill was passed as we had intended. There were a few additions that we're a little curious to see how that will play out, but we're currently, NEVA now has an implementation task force that's working with the SBA, and things are looking very promising that we will get relief in the coming weeks, and it's a huge relief.
Good. All right, let's jump in. I think we're about 5 minutes after, so just welcome everyone. We did put out the agenda this meeting. We got some really updates. So we've had a lot happen, I think, between the last month since we met last. And luckily we got Mr. Bell on here. I think he's going to be working pretty hard these next few months, helping folks get through, what was the new legislation. And then we'll chat a little bit about, brainstorming about what should our city plan be for the upcoming year. I want to come up with a bit of an agenda or a goals list. I'm someone who likes to like write a list and cross things off of it. So when it comes to small business, and I think ways we can rebound once we're past COVID, we should have that discussion. What do we want on the other end of this? And I think we got an update from Andrew about the apps that we're going to talk about as well. So with that, has everybody had a chance to check out the minutes from December 11th? All right, is there any proposed changes? If not, I will go ahead and motion that we accept the mints. All in favor, either say aye or just put your thumb up. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thumbs up. All right, all opposed, same sign. All right, so the minutes do pass. Hey, Brooke, how's the baby?
The baby is good. Sleeping lots, so I'm
Good.
lucky.
Yeah, they're praying for you. Like babies are tough when you're trying to get sleep. Okay, so
4-year-old is a little tougher at the moment, but as a baby's pretty easy.
good. Good. My kids are terrible. They still are terrible, to be honest. But we're talk about that later. Like they're absolutely awful. They get in our bed still, all three of them, and they kick us, and it's awful. All right, so getting into the new COVID relief updates. Mr. Bell from the SBA. What do we got, sir? You're muted.
Good morning. Morning, everybody. Good morning, Mayor. It's been, it's just when we thought 2020 was behind us and things, we could see the light at the end of the tunnel. Sure enough, curveballs, continue to get thrown at us. And I know you guys know well aware of what I'm thinking of, just thinking of our country and everything at the moment. So, but
well, one day behind us in 2021 with no incidents.
Right.
So, like, come on, team. We should put a sign up like one day. Let's get to number 2 and just take it day by day.
That's right. That's right. But Mayor, thanks for the opportunity to share a few things. By way of the Economic Aid Act that was passed, I believe, December 27th, there are going to be a few tools or a number of tools that will come into play here pretty quickly for our small businesses. You were talking earlier in referencing the Saving Our Stages Act, and we'll hear a little more about that. But that's going to be a big deal. The grant funding and those funds made available through that act are going to certainly impact our entertainment venues, our theaters. Those businesses that operate in the arts and entertainment, they've been significantly impacted. And so we're looking forward to those tools and resources coming to play. We're probably, as we heard earlier, probably somewhere in the area of about, I'd say 30 days or so before those resources are actually implemented or accessible, for businesses in that industry. Nationally, there's $15 billion made available to those type of entertainment venues and businesses, and so we're looking forward to all of the details. And I'll certainly defer to who was it that was just talking about Jessica or Jesse?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll certainly defer to you to talk further about the details. I'm looking forward, by the way, Mayor, on that information, and Jesse, there are going to be a few stakeholder calls, and I know that Jesse and Adam have already been involved. They've worked pretty amazing. They worked directly on with the group that developed that part of the that act. And
Adam
so
actually helped craft that bill.
Excellent. I mean, my hats off to you guys, and I'm looking forward to certainly having additional conversations with you all directly as we move forward. But I'm looking forward to that. I know that's going to be a big impact. Real quickly, the things that are going to be at play, I guess most in the short term. So this Economic Aid Act, initially what we're trying to do by way of PPP funds is really trying to reach underserved communities. And so when those funds are available, and I'm talking about PPP loans, when those funds are available, and that should be here like within another week or so, we should start seeing businesses being able to apply for that. The idea is there's going to be a big push to reach underserved communities. We're talking about minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned, women-owned, and so stay tuned. We're going to be, and I'm talking about the SBA, we're going to be releasing an update that I'm going to share with this group later this morning, and then that'll go out and it'll just kind of give the latest information on what we have there. So we know that PPP funding is going to be made available. There's also going to be, for those entities that perhaps have already received or previously received a PPP loan, there's what's called or being referred to as a second draw. Entities will be able to get an additional PPP loan up to a maximum, I believe, of $2 million. Those rules have already been released, and those monies should be accessible again, I would say, here in the coming week or two. So stay tuned. We'll have updates there. And then in short, there are some other debt relief options that were previously at play that this new, again, Economic Aid Act is going to make available. Things like the SBA paying for 6 months of a borrower's loan, 6 months of principal and interest on a small business loan. That debt relief is going to be made available. And again, that's here in the coming weeks. I think the initial push is to get PPP money out there. And by the way, the PPP loans and that funding will go now through March 31st. That's the deadline or the sunset to be able to access those funds. And so anyway, stay tuned. We'll be sending out information on that on the second draw and other details. So I'll pause there. By the way, more EIDL funding is going to be made available as far as the EIDL and the EIDL Advance. So stay tuned. We've got a lot of information that we're going to be pushing out, and beginning today, we'll be sending out a summary of what's coming up.
So very good. Do we have any questions for Mr. Bell?
Yeah, Mr. Bell, this is Doug Stark, and I'm a healthcare provider here. I don't fit within the minority category, but we are just getting killed by COVID. I mean, I can't even explain to you how expensive it is and whatever. Are we going to be available? We got the first draw. Will we be available for the second draw as well?
Short answer is yes. And it's not just, the funding, by the way, is not just for underserved communities, minority-owned businesses, but what's been talked about nationally and certainly observed nationally, there were underserved communities that for various reasons really didn't get, they weren't represented well in the funding that had been obtained, initially through PPP. And so there's a big push to make sure those underserved communities and to capture that information, make sure underserved communities. And so the initial push is going to be really around mission-focused lenders, CDFI, community, kind of lenders. And so that'll be like the initial group of lenders that the switch or the portal was turned on for. Okay. But that'll just be, you're probably talking about a matter of 1 week or a few days that group would be the first, those would be the first focus, if you will, on the push out for PPP. But there's still, I would really estimate that the funding for the Paycheck Protection Program, I'm going to estimate is probably not going to get fully exhausted by the March 31st deadline. And the reason I say that is back in August, when the application deadline ended, we still had, the SBA still had over 100, I believe over $100 million available for PPP. So there was still funding available. It just, we had reached the deadline for the applications. Doug, I sympathize with you. Call me, reach out to us. We still have other programs available, but debt relief is definitely on the way.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other questions for Mr. Bell?
Yeah,
I just want to. Oh, go ahead, Andrew. Go for it.
Just a quick question. I only read about the EIDL portion of this yesterday for the first time. Can you expand on what that EIDL loan is going to look like and who qualifies?
Well, the EIDL Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the same rules are going to apply. It's just additional funding. They haven't discussed things like in the past, we had the limit of 150,000, I think was ultimately kind of where that shook out. What the idea was to limit the funds to 150,000 so that more businesses could access those funds. I've not heard if that cap or another cap is going to come into play, but we do know that there are funds available, and I think those firms that are eligible and able to apply for EIDL, that's going to be available. So stay tuned. Andrew, we're going to send out some information again later today, and in the information that we send out, we'll refer you back to SBA's website and Treasury's website also, because there are going to be updates throughout, the next few days, the next week. We're going to continue to see updates on this program.
further questions for Mr. Bell at this time? Just do want to recognize the Harkeys for their effort, not just in Wichita, but really nationally, taking on this lobbying effort and getting Congress to do something and actually pull through. So thank you for that. Not only does that help folks here in Wichita, but also, you've helped folks throughout the country through your advocacy. It's pretty amazing, right, to see. And I shouldn't be surprised, but it's humbling actually to work with people and see people who have like a huge national impact, who are also our neighbors, who are like right here in Wichita. So, you likely save the livelihoods or help save the livelihoods of a lot of people throughout our country, just with your advocacy.
Thank you. The thing that really amazed me about all of this is, we spent so much time talking about how this is a small business program, but we got through it and we realized this is the largest arts funding bill that has ever passed through the United States.
Really?
Yeah.
I might make a note of that. That's worth bragging about.
We heard from the NEA, this is 500 years worth of their funding.
Wow.
So it's really nice to be able to see our industry recognized for what it is.
And just real quick, what did it feel like?
I don't even know yet. I've cried a lot and I've slept a lot since then. So I'm still exhausted.
So I've been ruined as a Democrat in the legislature, where like I just think that like when I feel the emotion of hope, like I don't even know how to deal with it. Like, wait, are we gonna get this? Is this actually gonna happen? And like, and so I know what I felt like that when we got the funding for the new domestic violence shelter, the 100,000 we were able to secure, and then also for the buying the hotel for the homeless population here in Wichita, like that. Like, wait, did we really just do that? Like that feeling of hope that I've always suppressed. And so I kind of understand what that's like, and I can only understand from you guys just working so hard on this and actually seeing it just pass, seeing that all that work actually come through. So amazing.
Hundreds of people across the country to make it work.
Right. That's true. But you guys also played a really, big part in, national part. So being on
right
TV,
here in Wichita.
That's right. And
Wichita. It's amazing.
Yeah.
About it too much. And it's the promoter mentality. Like, Alex knows just as well as we do that you just get crazy ideas and it's going to work and you make it happen. And sometimes you make money off of it.
Very good. Wayne, and this might not be something we have for you right now, but is there anything we can do as a group utilizing our resources to help you and the SBA get in touch with underserved businesses? I think you're going to have some obvious groups on your list, the African American Chamber, I'm sure, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I'm not sure if there's really what the groups are for businesses owned by women, or if there's groups for other that are organizations that could help get you in touch with business owners for these other populations that fall within this category. Is there anything that you might need from us to try to help get you guys to reach out to?
Mayor, I think yes. I think if we could plan on, what would be ideal would be maybe a few segments on perhaps City Channel 7 or something where we're talking about these funds, how they can be accessed, just going over all of the eligibility criteria, who business owners can contact. I think that would be huge if we could do something, and they don't have to be very long. These could be, I'd say 30 minutes or 20, 30 minutes, but just something where we can focus around the eligibility criteria, how to access these funds, where people can go to help. There are a number of other resource partners that can help. And we could certainly maybe offline follow up on this, but I think as early as perhaps the week of January the 18th, maybe that week, and then a few subsequent, dates or what have you, that we just really push it out and just try to spread the word. We'll certainly be working with the Wichita Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber, the Heartland Chamber, and any other groups that this task force is aware of. We'll push it out really hard. Our universities, Wichita State, but I think City Channel 7 would be a really good outlet to kind of, utilize to spread the word as well.
I would like
Definitely.
to put the Hive's name in there as the space to reach women. We have about 200 members, women in business, and we reach I would say about 3,000 people on our social accounts that are mostly women in Wichita following. So we'd be happy to host some kind of, we already live stream to our members all the time. So I'd be happy to open an event open to the public also and invite business. I know.
Definitely.
Excellent. Good. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Andrew.
So with that, one of the things I'm trying to do, when I became mayor, I inherited a program called Call the Mayor, where people can randomly call you and ask questions on KPTS. We were able to cut the budget and produce our own show here, which allowed me the ability to bring on people like Mr. Bell. He's been on the show before to talk about what resources are out there for Wichitans. So because we cut the budget, I'm actually trying to roll over some of the funds from last year that we saved, and I want to put them into pretty much PSAs, like public service announcement type stuff, to advertise, and this falls into that category, but to advertise what stuff is out there that Wichitans need to know about, but probably don't know about unless they're plugged in some way. So I think that and I say that on this call because, yeah, Mr. Bell, we're definitely going to do that. We utilize Channel 7, but I want to also go wider with that and the goal is to get needed information out there. And also the Hive, I mean, that's something we should be talking about too, because I'm sure there are a lot of women-owned businesses who are looking for a community of support, and I'm saying it to the whole group here in case there's other stuff that, let's say Alex or Andrew or someone, hey, this is important for the community. I'd love to come on a show or come on a PSA and talk about this. Then, there's other stuff that we should be talking about. Then, yeah, let's do it. Let's make sure that we inform as many people as possible of what's out there as we bounce back from this year. So with that, I am going to kind of go out of order a little bit. Andrew had an update on the app, and I think that we'll put him next because the other part's more of a brainstorm to start the conversation about next year's, what should our agenda be really, and that conversation can kind of go longer. So let's knock out, I think, the more structured announcements first. So Andrew, what do you got?
First of all, I just threw a link in there for you to look at. My friend Mark McBride is a sales executive for a small network of I think 8 or 13 TV stations. I put it out there just if anybody wants to reach out and see about adding them, because they're super affordable and they have both English and Spanish. So, yeah. So can everybody hear me okay? I've had some issues in the past. I have not gotten word back. My contact at Wichita Community Foundation, I found out via email return and then on social media yesterday that she had a baby 2 days ago. So fortunately, she's not here to give me answers. And so I've run it up to Shelley Pritchard just to verify that the opportunity is still on the table. But the Community Foundation, for those that aren't aware of this opportunity, had a donor interested in helping fund some sort of program that could help small businesses and simultaneously help the community in the effort to lower the spread of the virus and still promote good business practices. So I engaged with a technology development firm who was interested in taking on the task. And of course, we had to get the funding component in order. And the last piece that we were waiting on was who's going to own this piece of technology after this is over with, or, once it's ready to go. Someone that's going to be engaged, maybe be willing to invest in it in the future, in the long term, not just be a one-off thing that maybe gets forgotten about. And the big news that we found is that Wichita State University has agreed to take it on. And it's through their entrepreneurial department. So if anybody knows Mark Torline and his team over there, which is kind of not really the direction I thought it would go. And I'm actually really pleased, because if this is a tech-driven tool, then that's the right team, to potentially have it, because he's also deeply connected with the innovation campus and all the things they do there. So there's a potential for this to have a bigger life than just, serving the needs of the small business community and the public. So anyways, that's the kind of the big update. We now have to get Wichita State University, the tech developers, and any other interested parties on the line. I think I'd like to join that. And I know Tyson was interested in being listening in on helping out with that. So I'm going to invite you to come to that. And perhaps at some point when we get past the next step, meaning we've kind of designed like exactly what they want in theory, then we can kind of bring it to the table here and maybe add our input to it. I think they want to plug in as many groups as possible. It's not designed to be specifically for Wichita State. It is for the community. It's just they are going to be the ones that hold on to it and essentially, let's just be honest, pay for it, in the future, because it's someone that's got to be able to afford to keep this thing alive. So that's really good news. I think a lot of the organizations we talk to are just so limited in their budget right now, and taking on another program was just not really something they could do. But the university has access to so many talented people and students. I think it's a really cool thing to see. So I guess the call out to you all is just continue to think about how can we engage the community in some sort of technology tool that simultaneously helps small businesses, stay afloat and stay alive. That's really been kind of the basis of this thing. So I'm happy to take questions and ideas back to the table as soon as I hear back from Shelley.
That sounds awesome. Thanks for your work on this. And I think that you're right. Having more of an institutional support behind it can help build it out after, hopefully, once we get through COVID, right? Like once we're beyond this, build it out into to let it grow and still be utilized, opposed to, just have it kind of serve one purpose and then die down. So any questions for Andrew? Thought Andrew had a question, but it was just her copy. Okay. Is that a hand? All right. So we're going to get into roughly our brainstorming session. I'm going to start off by saying, like, we got a lot of stuff done this year, and it doesn't seem it as far as, because, no one looks at 2020 as a productive year, right? And eventually I need to talk more about like what we accomplished at the city level, trying to help both employers and employees, and then also, attack challenges as they came. But and I think so it's Andrea, not Andrea. So where I'm from, that was pronounced Andrea, and I know that that's how it's pronounced here. But it dawned on me. I asked Andrea about ways we can work to close the pay gap, right? Like different, what can we do policy-wise? What can we do moving forward at the city level to close the pay gap between men and women? And then it made me realize, like, I need to do less, hey, can you help me with this idea I have, and do more of what should we be doing, right? Like, what do you need, instead of saying like what you get. So as members of the business community and looking towards this likely changed economy, I don't think we go back completely to normal. I think that Zoom is here to stay. I think that things are going to be different moving forward, and you guys are on the forefront of that. We should discuss how can Wichita put itself in a better position than our peer cities, agenda-wise or policy-wise, to take advantage of the new times. One of the examples is our open air, right? Like where, it's healthier to have stuff outside. Let's change our ordinance. Let's cut the red tape. Let's make sure that we can get a permit for open air sales and also services, where folks can go out into the sidewalk and create this new, this new way to have services for small businesses. We've had mixed results on it. Really good idea, but I think also we need to create the culture of people eating outside here in Wichita. Like, we didn't turn into Burlington, Vermont overnight. I know you guys aren't from Burlington, but like it has an incredible outdoor eating culture. So it was good, but like what else can we be doing to also, and it costs us really nothing on the city side, but like what other stuff like that can we do at the city level to start rebuilding our small business economy and ensuring that we're in a good spot. So that's the question I challenge you all with. I'm not sure if anyone has any ideas right off the bat, or if it's one that we should go back to our communities and talk about and see if anything comes up. But
I think the open air, I mean, when did open air get started in 2020?
I don't know. The whole thing was
I want to
Sierra's
say
idea.
it was like, I want to say it was like July or August.
Yep.
And for us, it was really like, by the time we put the planning and the resources into this, it's not really going to pay off, because for us, it takes a long time to kind of get that planning done. And so it just felt like by the time we'd have it together, it would be September, which is spotty in terms of weather. And by the time you get to October, it's over. You know, if you're investing in outdoor events in October, it usually bites you. So you've got to be careful with that. So at this point, now we're in January. I mean, I feel like it's a really good time to kind of look back to that. And I think we'd have a lot more success with planning for open air now for the summer, because obviously this isn't going away. So we're still going to be dealing with this through the year, and people are going to be more comfortable outside. So I think, you know, using what we learned, we'd probably need to reach out to some of those businesses that participated over the summer and really like try to build that program again.
That's really good feedback. The because I've heard similar reports of folks like, hey, it's a good idea. We're gonna wait until next year before we invest in it.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to kind of mush in with the $5,000 loan or $5,000 grant from the county, and I don't think people connected the two, or they might have used the 5,000 for something else. So,
So
the 5,000 we didn't get till what, October?
right, but
I mean, you know, like it was cold by October 10th. So
keep the program is what you're saying too. Is like, let's.
Yeah, I mean, well, rebuild it in some ways. I mean, I think that Old Town, obviously, which is where we're at, has the potential to really, if we can connect things, and you know, I think some of those liquor laws, if we could kind of push to have liquor so that you can take it anywhere, would obviously help.
That's going to happen at the state level, so we'll need some assistance there.
Right.
But you also, like, you have 50 feet from your entrance, and so there's quite a bit of real estate outside your front doors that the state will allow you for now. But bringing up the liquor is actually really important, because most of those rules that allowed us to do the weird stuff with liquor expire on the 28th of this month. So, you know,
right,
has to do their part. And I've been told by the lobbyists and an organization I represent that the state's not going to do that right away, because it gives too much authority and power back. They have to give the authority and power back to the governor to extend the executive order, and they don't want to give her any more power. So they're going to play politics, and it's going to be, you know, months down the road before they finalize any long-term drafts. But there is support for extending the liquor laws to include to-go and outside the perimeter of your premise. And I know this, Brandon, I think what we want to ask you to do is make sure that whatever the state gives us authority to, accept that, obviously, because you have to have your liquor license part. And I think we have the support of the city on that. But the state's got to do their part, because that's who controls all of our laws. And I don't know, I know Alex is listening in because we've talked about this a bunch. You know, we got to get the state to get for the liquor part, but I do.
The state's the only one that's going to enforce. The city doesn't have any liquor enforcement, you know. So, I mean, they have there are city laws that can pass, but it really starts with ABC, because they're the 100%, you know, enforcement arm of the state. And yeah, I don't know. I have my lawyer is the state liquor lobbyist, so I can engage him and see where he stands on.
Is it Tuck?
Tuck Duncan, yeah.
Tuck's your lawyer?
Yeah. I went to middle school with Spencer. I went to school from middle school to high school with Spencer. So I bullied him actually. And
this is
I was a bully back in middle school. Then I was a nerd. So I was a bully because I was a nerd, but Spencer had a really fun response to one time. He was like, I don't think you should do that. I don't think it would be wise. And then we became best friends. So
then you're like, yeah, you're someone whose counsel I accept. And now he's your lawyer.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Chuck would be a good resource for that. He's right there. And so I can give him a buzz, but I do agree that aspect needs to stay. I think, personally, I hate to just butt in here, but
hey, please.
The open air aspect, for some of the spots really work. I already have like good outdoor spaces with 2 of my bars. We have outdoor space at the Cotillion, and one of the bars, the Tiki Bar, we'd prefer not to have outdoor space after we've been in business for a year. Like we have very expensive tiki mugs, and the minute we put people outside, they're going to disappear, they're going to break. It causes additional staffing to maintain a space like that. So it's kind of interesting how it works. However, we would have loved to participate, in open streets. So I think more like downtown centric events that bring people down and walking downtown. I mean, it would always be a direct impact to everyone's, into the downtown business, bottom line. So, I mean, I think those kind of like group led, we all come together, like when the chili feed was on Douglas, that was a direct impact to a lot of businesses. So I think it's interesting to plan some more events like open streets.
I'd like to piggyback on that as well. Exactly what you're saying, Alex, and Brooke had mentioned this also. Old Town, downtown, from what I'm hearing, we are the part of town that has been hit the hardest in the last year. If we could really do something to focus on bringing people back downtown once it's safe, I think that would benefit the community. We're seeing schisms throughout our society all over the place, but especially you can even see that, with our local geography and just people, from what I've heard and what I've seen myself, when you go out to the sides of town or the suburbs, those are the businesses that are still a little bit more financially viable after the last year. But then that also, it creates this mental divide of like, okay, I'm on the east side, you're on the west side. I think if we could do things to help bring people back downtown, it would help create, not only help our businesses, but help our community psyche.
Well, there's no reason for the extremities of Wichita to not participate in these type of events. I think the barrier is education and licensing, which is an interesting segue. I think that, we need to maybe make some of the licensing and procedures a little bit more accessible. I've been filling out licensing for 12 years, and it's the same thing every single year or every 2 years. I mean, taking a look at streamlining some of these things, I think would be saving most businesses time and give tools like temporary entertainment districts and things like that, make them more accessible to businesses that want to do things like that and access outdoor events. That's my thought. I don't know I don't know how easy that is to attack at the city level. I think
I'm writing it down. I think we can.
Yeah, I think after all these years, the ABC has become a little bit more streamlined with their online licensing, so it's not as cumbersome as it once was, especially for a renewal. At this point, after 12 years of running a bar, I would think that you guys have my information 10 times over, and it creates a little bit of a bureaucratic bottleneck, and it would actually save you guys money and save us time if everything was streamlined, and would give a little bit more power to businesses to be able to understand how to apply to do something, if all of that was streamlined.
So a couple things. I'm all about silver linings, right? Like if we're going to go through a crisis, I want something like in return for the pain. And one of the things that I think kind of adds on to what you're saying, I got to talk to staff about this, is we were able to streamline the permit process for open air. And you know, like I said, Sarah, we totally went out there, brought all the cameras we could, totally used Sarah as a prop for this, because she was one of the first who signed up, and because we want to get the word out. But the process was simple, and we wanted to talk about how simple that process was. If we can utilize that simplicity in that process for, I mean, what you're talking about, streamlining licensing and, you know, maybe temp entertainment district, stuff like that, that is something that's in our total control, is our process. And sorry, Sarah, I don't mean to pick on you. I can't tell if you like are smiling or not when I pick on you, or if you're being offended, by the way, because you got the mask on. So very strange world we're in with masks. Can't read people's faces. But the other thing, though, when we talk about downtown, we might have an opportunity with more people working from home, staying from home, spending less money on like fast food, spending less money kind of during their travel to and from work. There might be more opportunity for folks when it feels more safe to get out and have date nights, get out there, right? And so if we create more of an environment with, and I like the open street stuff, I like the idea that the city should be sponsoring stuff, but is there a way we can encourage that type of environment that's more driven by the business owners downtown, in almost an entertainment district, almost maybe an open air? I got to look more into this, but what I'm thinking is like almost predetermined alleyways or streets that we will let the bars and stuff, it might not be within 50 feet, but we can utilize almost like an entertainment alley, right? It's not going to block anything off, or like these predetermined streets that are pre-approved, go to the businesses around there and say, hey, if we pretty much handed you this permit, would you utilize this space? And you can use it with other areas. Maybe have someone with live music there.
So obviously, it takes a lot of work to set up this sort of thing. So it is difficult to envision like doing this every Friday and Saturday night, and you'd want it to be something that brings people downtown. And so doing it in more of an event-based way, I think makes sense. What if we like piggybacked on Final Friday or something? And that's when we set these sorts of outdoor areas and alleyways, like you said, that might be a good time, because people are still going out for art events, obviously, and so that could.
Yeah, it seems like we have the possibility of really synthesizing, I think, some of these ideas where the open air type expansion that will lead into more of a atmosphere that brings people downtown. It would be cool. And Andrew, if we ever got an app that is also helping, but maybe as it grows can actually map out, download this app, and now you know where you are and where, you know, all the different stuff going on, where people can be over at, you know, Burke's establishment and then walk down and listen to music, do different stuff as they're walking over to Adam's establishment. Like, if we could, there's probably an opportunity here.
Are you talking about just more of a promotional thing? Or are you talking about actually, you know, doing it like the French Quarter or something, where we close streets down and let people take booze out into the streets and walk around and go bar to bar? I know that's been discussed a lot in the past. I know like Sergeant O'Brien with the PD is super into that idea and has a lot of good ways of doing it. What are you?
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about cool environment, but within like our current structure, like what's in our control, because I think we need legislative change for this over here. So, you know, we got like the Cadillac idea, which might be more the French, you know, and I'm from the Northeast. Like I'm thinking like more like old Montreal, right? Where you can walk out and it's people are going from different establishments, and it's a great outdoor I guess, scene that is promoting people to walk through and to create like a atmosphere that makes people walk in, spend money, keep going and spending more money.
So with that, are you envisioning like street closures to go along with that as well?
We need what?
Street closures? Or
Yeah.
what kind of, okay.
So I think most of that is dictated by the city, right? Like ABC doesn't dictate the in and out of alcohol. I think that's all at the city level.
Yeah, that
So-
would all
Right.
be.
Isn't that, don't you
That's
just
state
need to be a temporary entertainment district for that to happen?
I think
That's
what
what,
You just
that's
need
what I'm interested in.
Alex, is that,
You still need to, if you get an open container outside of your licensed area, it's an ABC violation, not a city of Wichita violation.
Right. And you
So-
have
so
City-
how did it work with the NCAA? I forget. It's been
We-
so long
we
ago,
were
and
on
we
private
didn't get to do
property.
it this year.
We were on private property and we applied for the temporary entertainment district. So, in terms of serving
At Old
alcohol.
Town, you were able to carry from place to place.
That's if everybody extends their premise into an entertainment district. So if you have an entertainment district and all of the bars that participate extend their premise into the entertainment district, then you can take alcohol out and go around. But if you have one bar that's not participating, then it's dictated that they can't. But again, the temporary entertainment districts are a city ordinance. So that's something that the city has set up. So, and I don't know how it would work, but I don't think anybody wants to fill out a temporary entertainment district every week to do this. I think it would have to be something that would be in place as this is how it works on certain times or certain days. And it's just, that's what it is. And it's expected that that's what it's going to be.
Right. And that's why I was thinking maybe something like Final Friday.
Right. And that's
because
what,
it's-
what Brooks' information there like, is what got me thinking about this, where unpredictability, right? Like, so every Final Friday, not only can you do the art crawl, but then you have, an automatic entertainment district in this area, and if businesses want to partake in that, they can. But to get to Alex's point too, like it's some regulations in cities, like you can go out, but you have to have like a rope, right? Like, so you can't just like take your alcohol and walk into the next establishment. And so I think it's just getting into the details. But first we should come up with the vision. And Alex, to your point, as a former legislator, I get the background conversation about like, we don't want to give the governor more power. But when we work with people like Tuck Duncan, who pretty much wrote all the liquor laws for the last like 50 years, the workaround is like, instead of what's the workaround, right? Like, can we instead empower local governments and local authorities to be able to make the call when it comes to, having drive-through alcohol or whatever? Like what is the policy fix if we wanted to go down that road? And Andrew, you're shaking your head, so you probably have more education on this than I do.
I think Andrew's going to say what I'm thinking is
you have to have legislative change. The legislation dictates what ABC rules are, and so you have politicians that are currently like the legislative agenda for the restaurant association is very similar to the liquor lobby, and they work together on a lot of their bills because they all have a lot of impact on each other. But there's bleed over into retail, and there's going to be a big battle right now between the big booze and liquor companies preventing liquor by the drink exiting a business, which is what we're temporarily allowed to. That's going to be the biggest fight politically, because the liquor stores believe that it's going to take customers away from them if they can go permanently get it from, let's say Alex's get a tiki drink to go is going to affect R&J's liquor, or whoever we buy our booze from. And there's going to be a battle at the Capitol for that. And that's going to happen after this expires this month. And so, and again, it's just a political mess up in Topeka. They're not going to allow an extension. This is predicted. They're not going to allow an extension of the current temporary executive order, because it really needs to be done on a larger basis. It needs to be finally approved for permanence, which is great, but it's going to come with a really ugly battle. And it's not very different than the battle that's been going on for years between liquor stores and grocery stores. That kind of deal.
Which might come back up soon because it's been 10 years. Like they had a 10-year truth. And so interesting. I mean, So like I said, we got usually two plans, right? Like what's within our control at the city level. It sounds like, let me talk with staff, creating either the temporary entertainment districts or maybe even utilizing the open air stuff to find streets that we can, areas that we can actually create an environment for this without hurting a flow of traffic or whatever. There's stuff that's probably in our control that we can tweak and utilize to create the environment that's going to help, particularly small businesses downtown. And then there's the stuff that we would need legislative change on. It sounds like, and I'll tell you, the Hospitality Association, there are folks who understand Topeka, who work, their job is to work in legislation. So whatever, that's outside our control right now. But we can be quick to respond to any changes that might be helping us, or be ready for those changes as they come up. So that.
Also, we'd have a lot of allies within the industry outside of just bars and restaurants that would push. I mean, like the temporary entertainment district that happened about, 10 years ago, and that was a push by a lot of people, not just bars and restaurants. So, I mean, there's a lot of folks that would like to see that happen. So I don't think we'd have any issues getting that changed personally.
Well, then we might just need somewhat of a template, right? Like, so who's doing it really well? One of the things with government, other than higher education, like the other field I work, where like if you copy someone's idea, you're in trouble. In government, that's like how you do it, right? Like, well, what's Tulsa doing? Let's go do what they're doing, but then do it better. So is there, and of course the obvious one's going to come to mind. We're going to think about Denver, or not Denver. We're going to think about Boulder. We're going to think about college towns and what they do with creating atmospheres downtown. But is there a like sister city? Is there I think Omaha might have something. We should probably look, and I'm thinking out loud right now, we should probably look into who's doing this type of stuff, who has that atmosphere that is really an attraction in helping folks get out there, give something to do. It's quality of life, but then it's also an economic stimulus. And like I said, I like Brooke's idea with doing it on a day where people are normally out for art, because then they'll stay for, the outdoor environment, or people who are going out to eat might actually start wandering into the art galleries. So how do we do it right? But I think moving forward, we should think about what is that template, what cities are doing it really well, and what can we learn from that to mimic and put a Wichita spin on it.
I wanted to throw something out there that's more of like a actionable item, or one that I think would be worth looking into. When we looked at the open air, we don't have much of a sidewalk, and we're very limited on what we could have, and it's on a busy street. So we were, with super fast driving, which luckily we got that lowered, which is awesome. But I had an idea to look at ways to help kind of create business opportunities for other people to support businesses like ours that wanted to have something out front. I actually had the city engineers down to look at our space and figure out legally what we were able to construct on the street, because we need to extend the premise outward a little bit. And an idea came that if there was a contractor, someone who's qualified to build something of any sort of like a decking, because of the way the road slopes and the curb, it just wasn't ideal to sit there. Especially if it rained, it would be in the gutter. And it was the idea for grant money, or to be able to help afford to have somebody build us a structure, because it was going to be about $5,000 to $10,000 worth of materials and building for us to build something to make a few $100s a week off of. It did make sense, but if there was a way to get a construction company that could lease out even, and then the design idea came the idea came to help design pre-designed, pre-approved structures that could easily fit onto both the shoulder or the street and the curb. The engineers had ideas on how to make sure that water would flow and it would meet these rules. So we didn't have a whole bunch of different things that people could do. And it created this kind of interesting idea. You can almost have like a templated way to extend your premise that's safe, that's visible from the public. It meets all the rules of the open air plan, and a person that's actually going to do it for you. Because most of us were just too busy to get our tool belts on and build a massive structure to help create, extra space. But, somebody entrepreneurial who's a builder could do that, So, but there needs to be funding for that. So maybe grants, or we even talk about leasing it. leasing a program where you could have these things built and brought out, whenever you needed them and then have them taken away.
So I wrote that down. That's an idea. I also want to throw out there because it made me think of this. And I haven't been doing this outreach with this particular group, but I want you aware of this in case something pops in to your head. So I've been meeting with advanced manufacturing companies, like going in, taking a tour when I can. And I'm have our economic development folks kind of tag along, right? They're the ones who understand our toolbox, and then get feedback. Hey, what can we be doing? And because of those conversations, we're now like redirecting funds or switching like the order of the list of like roads we're repairing and what we're doing to better accommodate some of these businesses for growth. Where you go in, you don't know that what their problems are unless you go in and you talk to them. Then you find out that big semi trucks have to come to a complete stop before taking a right hand turn, which is slowing things down. So now our engineers will look at that, and we will now extend the road out 7 feet and put a sign up, and we just fix that problem and completely change the way they're able to distribute stuff for that simple fix, right? And it's on a budget anyways, we just pushed it up. What I'm saying with this is there are infrastructure dollars, we have infrastructure plans, and if there are ways that we can utilize our infrastructure in a smarter way, more purposeful, I guess, where what you were talking about, like, hey, if this, technically now I got people sitting in a ditch, but if you were to change this differently, then I could use this as an entertainment space, like that type of stuff. I'm not saying that we can come out and build your deck, but if I want to throw that out there, where when it comes to changes like that, if we have to do road repair anyways, we might be able to make the adjustment with a city investment that will lead to economic activity and growth on your end. And normally I've just been focusing on advanced manufacturing lately, and kind of taking that feedback. Right? I want to put it out there for other small businesses as well, because it makes sense. If we're going to spend money on a road or a sidewalk, it costs us almost nothing if we're going to repair it anyways, to put it out an extra 7 feet. So now we have possibly a warehouse moving back in because trucks can be more easy for them to like flow in and out. And that's what stuff we're trying to do. So infrastructure type stuff we should be thinking about as well in this plan, I guess, in our agenda moving forward, and maybe discussing in the future. And I can talk with staff about what is the best way to kind of ask those probing questions to get that information back. Because I'm not sure everyone knows that, hey, if you complain about this street, we can actually fix that. Well, we can't really fix this. I think people think we have different tools than we have. So
may I add something? Because I actually experienced this when the city called all the businesses in the design district back together to like discuss the update and repair and redesign in the block that's kind of to the east and west of me. The plans, like from 9 years ago, 10 years ago, were like outdated because the business structure was very different. Mm-hmm. And when I talked to Gary Jansen about my specific space, they had drawn in this massive like sidewalk across the street where they were unloading kids on buses, and a very narrow sidewalk where all the buildings were. And I looked at him and said, I have nowhere to put a cafe outside. Like, wouldn't that make sense to add us here when the school has tons of space? They have 500 feet, And he was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And they fixed it immediately and then created a whole new design that made sense for all the businesses. I think that like before they go to the, what do they call it? A CIP or whatever, like when you project something out, before they finally go back to planning, they consider the long-term use of the one small thing. I was just thinking about Alex, because he had an issue with his old building with the tiki bar and them requiring to have a grease trap if he wanted to ever do food there. Well, there's no room to put a grease trap behind the building because it practically goes up to the alleyway. So it makes it impossible for a restaurant to really ever open there. There's a possibility for us to, redesign a space where they can go in the front of the building. Might not be the best place for a grease trap, but it's better than having no grease trap, So just like thinking about the use of space and making sure that if you got retail storefronts, you give enough space before you just repave it and say, well, we can't really update it now because it costs too much money.
Right, because we were just there. I mean, that's exactly what you're hitting, exactly what I'm trying to do with this, where we usually have designs and it makes sense based off the information we have. And then we need someone to say, hey, if you stretch this out 5 feet that way, I can actually do this. And our team are the type that would make that change. We're like, oh, that makes sense now, and like, there's no pride involved in it. Like we want to be have the most purpose and bang for our buck when it comes to repairs. But also, you're right, like the time to do that is usually when we are making those plans for an overarching idea to how we're going to fix our streets. Like we bake those in so that once we're doing a repair, we can add the changes then, instead of doing a repair afterwards and then getting complaints, because we're not going to go back, we're going on to the next one, right? So it's cheaper to do it while you're doing repairs. So we want to be ahead of it. And that should be part of the discussion. But yeah, Andrew, your point's exactly what, it's a more adequate way to say what I was trying to say, where getting that feedback early will allow us to make those changes. And we want to make sure that folks know that we are open to that feedback and we want it, so that so we can make things better. So it is a 10:02. I do understand people have to get off. Let's keep thinking about moving forward, what things we want to check off the list, right? Like
I also, just to interject real quick, I sent a link regarding common consumption areas, and I think that was passed a couple years ago. So I think there is a way to do the open air areas with drinking. I mean, it's obviously a different issue than the to-go alcohol. But anyways, that is something we should look into.
Okay. And we should also,
I know that Emma over at Mort's has maybe organized it before, so I was going to talk to her a little bit about it in that process.
Okay. And just as we think about this type of stuff and entertainment and kind of starting off, getting back into getting folks into the core, keep in mind we do have trolleys, and Director Tan is somewhat new over at the transportation department, and he seems really interested in upgrading transportation so that it meets expectations. So just throwing that out there, we might actually have other items that we can kind of toss into an overall plan, such as ensuring that the trolley kind of circles up instead of going up and down, or ensuring that if it's not the trolley, it's another one of our electric buses or something, because I know the trolley is supplemented by the businesses on Douglas. Anyways, there's might be opportunities to utilize other assets that the city has. Go ahead.
I think I'd throw in also is, when we're thinking about all this, could we think about what we're doing to promote Wichita to the region and drive tourism? We're talking a lot about what we can do for Wichita and Wichitans. But with Visit Wichita and other places, like what role does local business and other businesses in Wichita play in promoting Wichita to the region and to drive that tourism? Because I know that's huge, especially for entertainment venues, but I think it's huge for our city as a whole. And we have a lot of cool stuff to offer. So how can we really spotlight a lot of the local businesses and work together with Visit Wichita to try to drive tourism? Because I see that as being a huge component in recovery, even beyond just getting the people on the east and west side to come back downtown. We need to get people from all over the state and all over the region coming to Wichita to hang out for a couple of days.
No, you're right. And the reality is, in today's world, like, we're all the media right now. Like, you don't just buy like a media package from Visit Wichita. You give it all to Visit Wichita. They alone go and create a strategy to attract tourism. Like, we all have influence. We all have a platform. We could be singing the same tune, I guess, when it comes to bragging about Wichita and why people can come and check this place out, and have, why we should be attracting regional folks. And to be honest, Adam, we've had this conversation before. I think if you were able to get Wu-Tang back, maybe Nas, then that's going to be a big impact for all of us here in Wichita, not just for me, but for the entire city. And so that,
I think they've been doing a pretty good job, and we've had they've gotten some articles. I think the more focus on PR and press that we can get around stuff, try to shatter the perceptions of a lot of folks in the region of us as, kind of a bumpkin town or a flyover space, all of those, whatever we can do to give it more of a cool vibe, on a national level is super important. So whatever that
collaboratively, I agree with you. Yeah.
Collaboratively with whatever their strategy is, which I'm not saying they're doing a bad job. I think they're doing a good job at, how can this group also have input on that strategy and that vision?
Definitely. No, I agree. And yeah, like I said, I don't see our comps department here in Wichita is much different than kind of third party promoters of Wichita, right? Like we should all be promoting Wichita, and if we can do so in a way where we're individual, but also marching in the same direction. I think there could be better collaboration. So I agree with you on that, and it'd be better that way. It's more organic that way. But I'm not gonna put a plug on the bands I want to see anymore. But because you already know, Adam. But anyways, so moving forward, it is we're 7 minutes late, which means that we are 8 minutes early, considering how we normally leave. And my lights just went off. So with that, is there anything else? Oh, please, if you haven't, Janet's going to get mad at me if we don't do this. Please post your business name and contact info in the chat section, so that Janet will have it. She keeps me organized, and we might probably didn't have it, and that's going to be my excuse for not giving you guys any Christmas or holiday cards. So
can I make a statement that we can think about till next time we meet? Just real simple. So I think that if I understand correctly, the monies that the people in the community are earning and paying out are relatively similar to what they were for the last year or so. And what that means is if people are spending essentially the same amount as they had as a percentage of their income, then where are those dollars going? They're primarily going to larger organizations, not being represented by this group right here. And so my big concern is that when spending and things happen normally, back to normal, people are in new pathways, they've carved new pathways, they have new habits, and they may not surge back to 100% of where we all used to be prior to COVID. And so, which also means if we were to get back to there, businesses that have been thriving right now are going to see a reduction, and they're going to fight to keep the earnings they've created during COVID. So there's going to be a nice battle between bigger, more established businesses, ones that had drive-throughs or whatever the case may be that allows your business to be thriving. And those of us are going to be fighting to get our market share back. And so we have to work really hard. And I don't know what the solution is. I just know that that's like just a thought that popped in my mind, for how we think about like coming back to our old selves again. Because I've been honestly planning for not getting back to close to where we were, because I just don't see how, if habits have changed, if people are now preferring, let's say, a drive-through over carry out, these are things that I'm concerned about. So I just wanted to put out there that how we solve that problem. How do we get consumers to come back to us if they've already created new habits?
We got to be innovative. I mean, what you're saying is exactly right. Is we really can't predict what's going to happen, but it would be naive to assume it's going to be the same. Particularly when it could be good, it could be bad. I mean, we could have, for example, Sarah, like Zoom is more acceptable, working from home is more acceptable. I got 3 kids and they're nuts. My wife can't get her work done, so now she's going to Sarah's Coffee House more, and then the trend going over to the Hive and looking for workspace. Like, so the trend might actually change from like the open concept of, let's say, a coffee shop to open concept, but also like Cubbies where people can go and work. If our economy changed that point, or like exactly what you're saying, where if we're not adaptable, things could be very bad. Things could change for industries could be left behind. So it's going to be very interesting to stay on top of that, and that's part of, I think, why we got to come together and have these discussions. But yeah, really good point. And I guess we won't know, which we never really know. So economy is its own animal. So we'll figure it out. All right. Anything else? What else we got? Nothing? All right. So it's 10:11. I want to thank everyone for being on. Happy New Year. Let's hope it's a better year. Like I said, I think we've gotten one day so far in or 2 consistent days, hopefully, without a major national incident. So go team. Let's keep it up. And thank you all. Take care.